The stakes in Saturday's Bennelong by-election could hardly be higher. While both Liberal and Labour camps predict John Alexander will hold on against the ALP's Kristen Akilah, a government defeat would be calamitous for Malcolm Turnbull, leaving the coalition with a minority on the floor of the House of Representatives. In the event of a very narrow win by Alexander, who has a handy 9.7% margin, how the result was interpreted would become important in whether Turnbull lost serious skin. The by-election is certainly not risk-free for Bill Shorten. After several bad weeks, he needs a strong Labour performance if he is to end the year with some momentum. A Fairfax Media Reach Tell poll done on Tuesday in Bennelong had the Liberals leading 53–47% on a two-party basis. A Weekend News poll had a 50–50% result. Turnbull describes it as a very tight contest. The likely impact of the China factor has been much talked about in the by-election lead-up because the seat has a high proportion of voters with a Chinese background. About 21% of the Bennelong population have Chinese heritage, compared with 5.2% in New South Wales generally, and around 16% of the voters. Bennelong is the top electoral division for percentage of Chinese Australian voters, based on the 2016 census. The China factor is a potent cocktail of issues: the behaviour of Labour's Sam Dastyari, who has now announced he is quitting Parliament, the government's legislation cracking down on foreign, notably Chinese, interference in Australian politics, and the ALP's shrill by-election rhetoric about Chinophobia. It is not clear how these issues will have gone down with the Bennelong Chinese, diverse in themselves, or how they will rate compared with other drivers of their votes, including Alexander's earlier efforts at sandbagging his support among members of the Chinese community. And then there is the question of what impact these debates have on the rest of the seat's voters. The Fairfax poll found 2/3 of the electors supported the move against foreign interference. Given the timing and the government's ruthless exploitation of the Dastyari affair, it is easy to cast what is happening to counter foreign interference just in a short-term political context. In fact, it represents a much bigger, more fundamental change in concerns about and policy towards Chinese influence in Australia. As strategic expert Hugh White, from ANU, writes in his quarterly essay, published in late November, "Without America, Australia in the New Asia, suddenly the Chinese seem to be everywhere, in Australia." Areas of concern include espionage and cyber infiltration, the vulnerability of major infrastructure, influence over Australia's Chinese language press, and surveillance and intimidation of Chinese nationals in Australia, including students. As well, of course, as the allegations of attempts to buy influence over Australian politicians. White, it should be noted, draws a distinction between China's capability and what it has actually done. Speaking to The Conversation this week, he said, "While it is wise to take precautions against China or other countries seeking to influence our politics in illegitimate ways, the government has so far not provided any clear evidence that Beijing is actively seeking to do so at the moment."